You're listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast.
You're listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast. My name is Sean Wilkie, and along with my awesome co host, we interview the innovators in this space every week. Ivan, please go ahead and kick us off.
Hey, I'm Ivan Zach, excited to introduce our guest, Candise Goodwin. Candise is the founder of Outlier Advisors. She established it in 2022, leveraging her extensive experience from Merck Animal Health, Vet's First Choice, VIP Pet Care, Pet IQ, Petco, and One Vet. Outlier Advisors provides personalized solutions for pet healthcare and retail businesses focusing on growth and innovation. With Candice's guidance, companies navigate the market's complexities, leveraging her experience in launching veterinary services and major retailers, pioneering digital pharmacies, and expanding e-commerce platforms. Her straightforward, effective approach helps clients achieve sustainable success. Her expertise has made her a highly sought-after consultant, global speaker, and trusted advisor to fellows outliers. Welcome to the show, Candice. Thank you for finding the time.
Hi, absolutely. Super excited to be here with you guys today.
So tell us more. So this is more of a consulting role from what I understand. And I've been there and immediately curveball to you. How do you feel about finding solutions for people, explaining them to them, and they never follow your recommendations? Because that's what it feels like being a consultant when I was at, maybe I just was terrible at my job.
Well, I doubt that. I would say, it's the same principles you use whether you work at a large company or with a client with consulting. And so I think I've learned a lot of lessons throughout my career on how to really pick the right clients, I guess, at the end of the day. So what's great about my consultancy is I have an opportunity to, really look across the industry. And so I try and only work with clients that I feel like have a really unique solution for the market that really can be valuable, and two, that really are in a place that they want and can take, the help of a consultant. And my consultancy, I don't do a lot of advising, even though Outlier Advisors, funny enough, is my name. I really do more of a McKinsey model and do, really work back to the client where they then can use that work in their own business plans going forward. So much more deliverables focused, really looking at specific areas of the business that they want to impact and giving tools for them to do that going forward.
So would it be fair to say that lots of our guests on this podcast could be your clients?
It's a, I will say I'm a big fan of your show because I think highlighting innovation is, something so important in this space. And one thing that I love is I love a great founder who has a beautiful product or solution, but doesn't necessarily know or understand how to get that product to market. And what I find is that people with some of the best ideas do not understand the realities of this industry and where and how to go, not just the right audience to go have conversations with, but what I do is a lot of the upstream work, right? What's your channel strategy? What's your go-to-market strategy? What's your partnership strategy? But first of all, who's your audience? And then how do you monetize that audience, right? So at the end of the day, I really help those founders, get off to a faster start because we do the upstream work to make sure they're going to be successful. And I do have many of my clients have been on your podcast previously.
All right. So we're a lead gen for you.
I knew it would be good for something at some point, Ivan. This is great.
This is great. We found the niche for us. So this is great. So lots of listeners and those that come here, because we have all kinds of level of entrepreneurs that join us. Someone who is on the very start of their journey, someone, who is well into it. We had large companies. Who would be the perfect timing and stage of the development for someone like yourself? And then can you talk to us through the journey? Because what I found as a consultant, when we were consulting corporates, identifying the stage precisely where they are, it's kind of an important step. And then, so what is that stage for your best sort of startup that is approaching it? And what does the journey look like when you meet with them? And what are the crucial things that you identify and help them to find the path? Because it's many questions, but it's not only difficult for startups. I feel that what you're doing is tremendously important, but for them to understand truly that I do need this at this stage is difficult. So how do you navigate that, and what does that journey look like?
Yeah, so I think, like everything, It is highly dependent upon the client, and I work with all stages of companies. I'm a mentor actually for Plug and Play and for an organization called SKU as well. And so I think that what's unique about me is I've worked on all sides of the business, and so I have a really distinct advantage point to help people understand, where and how they come to market. So I work with everything from companies without actually products in the market. I have a really exciting company right now that has repeat serial entrepreneurs that have founded in other industries and want to bring technology to the pet health segment. And so with those clients, particularly, starting very early, right? They've got great technology, but they have no concept of where and how they're going to bring it to market. And I can help them make really thoughtful choices on the audience. I always start kind of with the end point of who's going to buy this product and really how do we want to prioritize the most likely target for a success. So at the end of the day, I think I'm stage agnostic, but I do love a client who kind of has expertise in their domain field, but is not quite sure exactly where or how they're going to win in this new environment. And that could be everything from, gosh, I have clients that do innovative pet food to technology players who've sold companies to major companies in this industry. But this industry is changing faster than ever. And I think one of the things that, when your head's down building a company, you're not necessarily looking up and looking around. And so I'm stage agnostic, but I do have a very set process. Like I mentioned at the beginning, we recommend what we think clients needs, and then we let them kind of, take the approach of phasing what makes sense for them based on obviously fundraising with startups, et cetera. But I'm stage agnostic, I would say, and large companies too, right? I work with large companies as they're considering their growth initiatives and do these make sense for us to take on? Sometimes you need an impartial third party to come in and take a look and give you feedback as well.
So I'm curious of how you got here, Candice. So, what's the background? And then as we come to modern day or today, what area of consulting are you particularly interested in? Are you interested? It sounds like go to market to me, but I'm curious how you got here and if there's a particular area that you like to consult in.
Oh, those are two good questions. So how I got here, I think by accident, like most of us. My background, I started my career on the human pharmaceutical side of the business, degree in biology, wanted to become a doctor. I decided not to become a doctor and went into, human pharmaceutical and diagnostic sales early in my career. Learned a lot of lessons there around managed care and key opinion leadership development, et cetera. And found this industry by accident. After taking a few years off in 2010, I found animal health, went to work for Intervet Shearing Plow, carrying a bag, learned the business from the ground up, and Intervet went on to become Merck Animal Health. I became the number 2 promotion into the corporate account expansion role for Merck back in the day. So I managed emerging groups like NVA and VetCor, as well as many others. So 5.5 years at Merck, managed distribution, buying groups, global launch team for Brevecto. One of the lessons that rang true throughout my career is I had fabulous products, but if I could not help people sell them out the clinic at the end of the day and put those in practice through protocols, et cetera, then I would be the one taking the return and an angry client on the other side. So that lesson served me well. I was 5.5 years at Merck Animal Health, and again, working with some of these large corporate groups early days, then went to work for one of my customers, Vets First Choice, pre-Covetrus. There was about 30 people, startup life around a table, trying to figure out how we brought, a prescription management solution to the corporate group specifically, and was there for 2 years. So big jump from corporate America to, startup life, and learned more lessons than I can probably lay out here on this call, but really smart people trying to make a big difference, and got very close to the product side at that point, right? Because my corporate clients had a lot of needs that, we had to impact the product roadmap in order to reach those goals. So from there, went to work for my largest customer, VIP Pet Care, who I ran e-commerce for, and we got acquired by PetIQ to be, the retail expansion arm. So part of the team that opened our first 20 vet clinics in Walmart back in 2018, over 3 months. And so was there for 2 years doing digital health. So really at PetIQ and VIP, I think is where I got an opportunity to go out and try and figure out big problems for organizations as we looked at ways we needed to innovate quickly in the marketplace. So everything from digital health roadmap to subscription healthcare to revalue engineering our Walmart vet clinics as we looked at, how do we get, increased customer acquisition. So everything from marketing to, standing up sick pet packages as an example. So was there 2.5 years, then went to Petco, digital transformation at Petco for pharmacy, for stores on the channel vets and mobile vets. So as we thought about our veterinary diet and pharmacy experience, I got a chance to, go back and spend lots of money and have a second pass at getting it right for veterinarians as well as consumers. And so really learned e-commerce in my time at Petco. briefly went back into startup life with pet folk, and then decided that a lot of the lessons I learned throughout my career were really valuable for a variety of stakeholders. And so what's really great is I've worked on all sides of the table. One of my favorite talks that I give is epic fails, lessons I've learned from both sides of the table, because I've been the person pitching the big corporate group, and I've also been the person receiving that pitch. And so I think it gives me a really unique perspective. And then what type of projects, what's my specialty? I think what's fun about where I'm at is I get to work cross channel with all different type of players, and I like a portfolio approach to my consultancy. So I think go to market is a piece of it, but really growth is how I like to think about the consultancy I do. So really helping companies grow, whether it's through new initiatives, or it's by bringing their product to market in a very smart, differentiated way. So you'll find my clients choose me because I don't do things the way that other folks do them, and that's based on the years of experience I have.
So, $1 million question and I want to kind of specify it. So, the approach to a single individual pet hospital to sell something versus corporate, because obviously every startup wants to get to the corporate, big account or multiple accounts. Is there one or three things that you need to flip on its head and think differently when you're approaching an individual clinic sales? If you have software product that serves a veterinarian, let's say like Talkatoo, for example, if you're selling it to individual doctors in the clinic and it benefits them, any product, and then also you want to get to those corporate accounts and sell to them, what's the biggest difference in approach and methodology that you can highlight?
So I think it's know your audience, right? And know your product and know who you're going to benefit. And I think what I tell a lot of clients right now is, the riches are in the niches. Like, you need to have a very clear, distinct persona of who's going to be able to use your product and how you're going to make their life better, full stop. And I think if you get that right and understand the market, it becomes really easy to focus your time and attention where need be. But what I will say is about the corporate account market, right? It's shocking to see. Again, I was the number 2 hire at Merck. I think when I started in that role, there was about 5 of us in the country doing that role, to be clear. And I think one of the lessons I learned very quickly is if you've seen one corporate group, you've seen one corporate group. And that still holds true today. So there's 90 plus, Chris Kelly was on last week. I've helped him build the enterprise practice report. It's a labor of love for me, because I think the landscape is changing so quickly that what people think they knew 6 months ago does not apply anymore when you look at corporate groups out there. And so I think it's a very different approach you would take. But at the end of the day, very few of these corporate groups really have true, what I call formulary control, going back to the human model. And technology is different, right, than products. But at the end of the day, very few folks are mandating medicine, as I like to call it. So I think you have big opportunities on both sides of the equation. And even for the large groups, right, you want to have a tops down and bottoms up approach. So it shouldn't be looked at as either or. It should be, I have a very unique value proposition for a veterinarian who's in a practice that I think I can make a huge difference in their life. And not or, this is attractive to a corporate ownership or ownership in general of how this impacts, the bottom line, as well as the intangibles, right, like client satisfaction and client retention, et cetera.
So, an interesting thing that's happening with our industry right now, it's changing significantly. We see all the corporates now shedding the corporate overhead, and all business development people are gone, and some executives are gone, and there's a tremendous focus on how do we operate these practices. It's not anymore how do we buy gazillion of these and stack EBITDA. It's actually how do we run them. And I think that out of 60 groups that I can name, about 60 of them were focused on acquisition. So, what products do you think are harder to sell now, in what segment, to the corporate groups there was before? And I'm sorry I threw in these difficult questions.
It's not difficult. It's fun. This is fun. I love this stuff. I mean, I live to talk about this business. I'm passionate about it. And I think there's so much opportunity out there. At the end of the day, I think that it has become harder to sell any product or service into the veterinary channel than it was 5 years ago, to be super clear. And I wrote an article for Vet Advantage magazine back in April. We really have changed how and where people are buying, solutions for practices, not just with corporate ownership, but when you look at the rise of marketplaces specifically, and you look at the distributor rep in some ways being, disintermediated from the practice. I think there were a lot of opinions and ideas about what value distribution added, but the reality was it was a channel that there were limited folks inside a practice trying to get share of mind and voice, and that has changed dramatically. I mean, when you look at the number of reps feet on the street, whether it's, virtual or in clinic. It's shocking to me. I'm dying to get a number and I don't have it. But when I was on the human side of the business, I saw the same thing happen. We called it an arms race, right? I can't get to the vet, so I'm just going to hire more bodies and I'm going to put more people in front of the vet. Well, I think we've unleashed somewhat of a monster, quite frankly. And I think what that's done is just add a ton of noise to the market. And when we get to the book, I recommend it'll talk more about this. But I think, again, figuring out where and how to get to those stakeholders in differentiated, unique ways is just going to be super important. And when you get that time, you make sure you have a targeted pitch that is spot on to solve the one pain point that they need your solution for. So I think it's not what product, it's really the approach you're taking. And if you're taking a traditional, I'm going to hire more bodies, I'm going to go knock on more doors, that doesn't work. Doesn't work if you're going into practice. Doesn't work if you're making a phone call to a corporate customer. I think it's really identifying where and how to interface with those folks that can benefit from your solutions.
That's so fascinating. So another question for you on go-to-market. I feel like we're getting free consulting hours here, Ivan. This is really great. Never envisioned our podcast would turn into this. But, this industry is very interesting. When I say interesting, almost strange in many ways. I've sold technology before this, I've sold real estate, I've done a bunch of different things in my career. And then I came into VetMed, and a lot of the things that work across other industries just don't work here. And there's many reasons for it. Your customers are busy, they don't have enough time, they're overworked, they have not enough free hours in the day. But, for all those startups out there that are looking for free consulting hours, Candice, what does it look like? How do you tell a food company or a new nutraceutical or a new drug company? They identify their customer, but how the hell do they go to a market and serve people that don't have any time to even eat lunch, let alone take a sales call?
Oh, it's a great question. And I think it's one of those that you have to have a really strong strategy about, kind of the long game, right? And that's important for startups. What's critical that I get, my solution in the hands of people and get feedback, right? And so I think that's kind of the boots on the ground method in some ways works if you can find those folks who are willing and need your solution. And so the way I think about it is there's a few different routes that are going to be really important. And you're spot on. It's not a natural way of selling things. It's not like any other industry I've ever seen. And it continues to be more complicated than ever, quite frankly. And so I think when I look at how to do that, I think the most important thing is make sure that you have market fit, right? Like, have you built the right thing for the market, and is there a clear need, and are you differentiated from your competition? Because if you're another me too, you're right. There's no time or energy. And how do you really get differentiation, right? Because I think that's the big challenge in it. But when I look at people that have done it, right, and that's one of the things I always ask myself, well, who's done it and who's done it well? Because I think let's look at the marketplace and learn from those before us, right? And so I look at people like VetCove, quite frankly, 19,000 practices, not a dollar spent on marketing, right? They don't have, they don't publicly speak about their company on shows and conventions. And so I think this idea of stealth mode, but solving one pain point for one end user, you'll be successful, quite frankly. And when people ask me, well, what's the path or who's done it well, I don't have a lot of examples. I'll just tell you guys, quite frankly, I mean, it is a tough industry. It's a tough industry. And I think that's why going about it with a very strategic plan and focus of, where the tip of the spear is going in, why it's going there, where you're going to expand from there, it's just more critical than ever. And I think at the end of the day, it's having folks surround you that understand the nuances of this industry. And that's a big offering again that we look to bring to the market is this lessons learned concept, right? Like, I see so many people try and do playbooks that didn't work the first time, and it's like we just keep pulling up the same playbook, and it's like, wait a minute, if it didn't work, we could try harder, but that's probably not going to be the best solution to get this to market. So I don't know if I answered your question, but what I would say is I'm more hopeful than ever. This industry is a great place to work. And I know so many people that are looking for solutions and so many people that have solutions, but we've just got to cut through the clutter and noise and make it really easy for people to not just understand the value, but then really, how do you implement, right, at scale change? Because I think one thing is getting the corporate group to say, yeah, great, I'm going to bring in that diagnostic equipment, or great, you can have this tool. But at the end of the day, if there's no leadership drive or buy-in to actually bring that to life across a set of practices because they believe this is going to make an impact for their veterinarians and consumers, then again, you're wasting your time, quite frankly.
Yeah,
Yeah, makes sense.
the biggest concern. Yeah. Well, it was a rapid fire episode. You've packed a lot of information. That was very exciting. But we did get to the end, as we usually do. We have two questions, and I'm excited to ask the first one because I'm wondering, what does that knowledge come from? I want a good book from you. So, book, YouTube, videos, TED Talk, anything that inspired you.
Yeah, I always say I have a book of the month club, so I had a very hard time picking one. But the one I'm going to go with for this call is Smart Brevity. And it's written by the Axios and Politico guys. And I read it within the last, actually, I listened to it on a plane coming home from Europe in the last few months. And it really is changed the way I do business. It really focuses on this less is more approach. And they have a very systematic approach of how they communicate, and they teach companies to do the same. So everything from, it's going to be, 20 minutes, right? Like your guys' podcast is phenomenal. You kind of know what you're getting into. Most important points first. And so I think for any company, they should go back and look at any communication they're sending, whether internal or external, and really think we have less attention span than ever. We are drowning in words. We are drowning in information. And how do you really make things so simple and clean that people can understand them? Because that is the goal. That is, I think it is the new brevity is the new answer. I think when you look at how do you get people to really be heard, there's not a one of the quotes I like is there's not an attention problem, there's an interest problem, right? And so I think you should ask yourself, if I can't get people's attention, am I not getting attention or am I not getting interest because I don't understand the audience and I don't know exactly what they're looking for.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. Sounds great. Sounds like a good read. Last question. Another innovator from this industry that you think would be a good guest for our show?
Yeah, again, this was a tough one. So I'm going to nominate Bruce Truman from BLT Consulting and Innovation Group. Bruce and I have known each other for a number of years. I've hired him as a consultant back when I was at big companies and brought in his companies when I was at other big companies to have conversations with. But a lot of people think consultants are, competitive with each other, but Bruce and I really support each other. We work on different sides of the business, and internationally for a lot of clients looking to come to the U.S., we have a collaboration, G&T Innovation Labs. So, but Bruce is just one of the nicest people, and he's one of the smartest, most connected people, and he'll give you a really unique view, I think, on the industry as well.
Thank you so much for listening to the Veterinary Innovation Podcast. If you want to hear about our new episodes, please follow us on any social media channel. Also, you can check out our website at veterinaryinnovationpodcast.com. See you next week.